Ukraine's President Volodymyr Zelensky says that officials from Kyiv want to meet with his U.S. counterpart Donald Trump and European leaders next week to discuss ways to end Russia's more than 3-year full-scale invasion. The proposed meetings appear to be aimed at adding momentum to the push for peace, as Zelensky expressed frustration with what he called Russia's lack of constructive engagement in the process. Trump has recently expressed annoyance at Russian President Vladimir Putin's stalling on a U.S. proposal for direct peace talks with Zelensky. He also noted that he'll decide on next steps, which could include withdrawal of U.S. efforts within 2 weeks if direct talks aren't scheduled. Zelensky says Andriy Yermak, the head of Ukraine's presidential office, is expected to meet with Trump envoy Steve Witkoff in New York next week to discuss preparations. He's also renewed accusations of Putin's insincerity to the peace process, while reminding everyone that Ukraine has accepted a U.S. ceasefire proposal and direct talks with Moscow, both of which the Kremlin has raised objections to. EU Foreign Policy Chief Kaja Kallas says there is broad support among member states to expand the bloc's military training mission to operate inside Ukraine. Kallas made the remarks following a meeting of the bloc's defense ministers in Copenhagen. The move would serve as a possible security guarantee to Ukraine post-war in the event that a ceasefire with Russia is reached. The EU has trained across various sites in Europe around 80,000 Ukrainian soldiers under a mandate called the EU Military Assistance Mission in support of Ukraine since it was launched in November 2022. The change in the mandate of the mission would require unanimity among all member states. 24 EU countries, as well as Norway, would participate in the proposed adapted mission. The EU's top diplomat exposed a rift among members, however, with some favoring an extension of the mandate after a ceasefire is reached, while others would rather update the mission already so it can enter into force as soon as hostilities cease. European allies, led by France and the UK, are also working on establishing a reassurance force where some European troops would be deployed in no-contact areas as an added layer of security to Ukraine. Russian missiles and drones wreaked havoc in Ukraine, damaging even the EU delegation headquarters in central Kyiv. And as the EU threatens new sanctions to exert more pressure on Russia, President Putin will be in China on Sunday to participate in the high-level summit of the Shanghai Cooperation Organization. The summit will convene about 20 top Eurasian leaders, including Chinese leader Xi Jinping, Indian Prime Minister Narendra Modi, and Belarusian President Alexander Lukashenko. The war in Ukraine is expected to top the agenda as Beijing intensifies its efforts to seek a resolution to the conflict.
对话谈判是解决乌克兰危机的唯一可行出路。我们呼吁有关各方遵守战场不外溢。
China has been granting Russia vital economic and political support since the beginning of its full-scale invasion of Ukraine 3 years ago. Beijing's leadership, however, seems to be experiencing some war fatigue, along with other BRICS countries.
China has been very clear, both officially and unofficially, that they want to see the conflict end, but they don't want to see Russia isolated either. And if you speak to the Ukrainians, they will tell you that they have no concerns with China.
Both Beijing and Brussels are heavily concerned with the risks of a generalized trade war. The EU has been demanding China play a more proactive role to curb Russian military option in Ukraine and Central Europe.
La Chine ne prendra pas le risque finalement d'annonces qui ne pourraient pas être suivies des faits parce que il ne faut pas non plus pousser la Russie à dévoiler ses plans et finalement se retrouver dans une situation où finalement comme Trump eh bien, on n'obtient rien réellement de concret.
After the Shanghai Cooperation Organization Summit, Vladimir Putin and other leaders will attend the 80th anniversary of the Chinese victory against Japan. The only EU leader expected to participate in the event is Slovak Prime Minister Robert Fico.